Gen Z is both the most comfortable with AI, but also most at risk from it.
We need to train ourselves for the roles that will involve more of decision making, that will involve more of analysis. AI is the co-pilot we have to work with, and rather not, be scared of it.
Even a job you absolutely love and adore will be boring some days, and that's okay. And I want to normalize that.
If you're adding value to the business should add value back to you.
Gen Z want job applications to be completed in under 15 minutes. It shouldn't take you longer than 15 minutes to do a job application. I'm for this.
Do you not think a bit of friction is good in that process though?
I think companies should know what they're looking for and state really clearly, this is what I want. And I think people should, if you're applying for something, read what the job is, know that you're a good fit, be able to communicate your value and nail it as well. So I think it should be more of a frictionless process.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of For Those Made to Do. Today, we're really excited to talk about something that we've been kind of touching on the whole season. It's become one of the biggest themes for us this year, alongside AI, which I'm sure you're guessing by now is Gen Z. And today, we're going to unpack what defines this generation, who they are, what's the dynamic when they reach the workplace, how are millennials and boomers prepared to welcome them in, and a lot more. And we're talking about it because Mandy and I have had the pleasure of working with a lot of Gen Zs over the last few years. If you don't know us already, we work for a business school. It's called Holt International Business School. We work in the career development team. I work in employability. I work with a lot of companies that hire our students. And Mandy?
Yeah. And I coach the students on a one-to-one, and also I teach them in class. So we're engaging, interacting with them quite a lot. And then also we're helping them get into the workforce as well. So we see a lot of behaviours, a lot of trends, and we get to kind of get to know them really well.
Yeah. And I think over the last few years, we've seen that there's something really special about them and something really unique. So today we really want to unpack what makes them so unique and great, but also so controversial. Why is everyone talking about Gen Z so much? So to do that, we have two amazing guests with us in the studio today. We have Miss Gen Z herself, Krupa Jatania. We like to think of Krupa as the ideal Gen Z. She's one of our graduates from a couple of years ago. Do you identify as Gen Z? Yeah,
I guess.
By
certain means, for sure.
Yeah, perfect. So she currently works in venture capital. She's done incredibly well for herself. She's just kickstarting her career. And also she runs her own podcast, which is called The Gen Z Way. And so we thought she would be the perfect person to talk about Gen Z today. So welcome, Krupa.
Glad to be here.
And also we have Martyn Cowie in the studio with us as well.
I also identify as Gen Z.
We were going to say, okay, we think you're more of a zillennial, but we decided to call you the modern workforce manager.
Take that.
Yeah. So Martyn is also a Holt alumnus. He did his MBA with us a few years ago. So today he runs a very successful digital transformation business called Thai Digital. He's done a lot of great projects, and right now he's working in Saudi with Neom, just to spill the beans on some of the work he's done. And Martyn has hired a lot of Gen Zs in his company, and he's got a really fresh take on why more people should hire Gen Zs and how he recruits them and how he trains them once they're in. So welcome, Martyn. We're really glad to have you with us.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so I'm really excited to have this conversation today because I think we maybe once a week have a big debate on Gen Z in the workforce. So now we're going to have it on the podcast, and it's set in stone. This is how it is. So I would say I identify as millennial core. I think I have a lot of the character traits. And this is where I think for us, we had a bit of an adjustment, I think, when we started getting this generation into the classroom, because we were like, okay, things kind of have to adjust a tiny little bit. And then we were thinking, well, if we're experiencing this, then actually our employers must be experiencing it too. And then we started asking them, and it found out that they were. So we'll go and unpack this later on in the conversation, I think. But what we're going to do in the very first instance is play a little game. So you'll find that you've got a little paddle on the side of your seat. And there's a happy emoji and a sad emoji. So whatever thoughts and feelings you have based on the statements that I'm going to share, please do tell us how you feel. Okay, so to get started, I'm going to start with this one. So we've got these insights from our last guest that we had on the last episode, a friend of ours called Ellie Bachara, and he works at LinkedIn Insights. So he shared these insights to us. And so we're just going to reel off a couple and then we can have a little discussion after every single one. Okay, so nearly half of Gen Z prefer to have a fully self-directed and self-paced learning on the job, but only 20% of L&D leaders plan to offer it. How do we feel about this?
So the wanting it.
Yeah, like the second part is obviously.
Yeah, second part this, first part
this.
this. Agreed. No, I said first part this.
Yeah,
And
I'm
I'll
the
tell
only
you why.
one like in favor of it.
I did know.
Okay. All right. So you guys have both said thumbs up.
Yeah.
You did a thumbs down.
I did a bit of both on both
Okay.
sides
Yeah.
of that.
Okay.
I'm a bit
Okay. So for the
confused by
first
question,
part,
to be
I'm
honest.
also leaning about. Yeah.
So for the first part, I put a thumbs down because just because they think they learn best that way. Also, what we're hearing a lot on the ground is that a lot of managers are saying they need a lot of hand holding.
True.
So then in that instance, if everything's kind of self-directed, then I give you a task to do and then you complete it. And there's no kind of extra context. You've not asked any questions if you're on the right path or on the right direction. And then you deliver a piece of work and it's kind of like 50% done. I think when you're in this kind of self-directed mode, I think sometimes a little bit of mentoring is needed or a bit of direction is needed. And I think you don't want it to get to a point where you're like, okay, I find all my answers online and then no one's asking any questions, right? Because that's how you've got to learn on the job. So for me, that's why I kind of flipped negative for
it's
the
a
first part.
balance at the end of the day. Like the self-direction, I feel is more so stemming from the fact that rather than the manager setting the path down for us, saying that, okay, 1, 2, 3, you do this. This is how it's done in the organization. This is how we have been doing this. And it's been given us great results. And, you learn this in 7 days. Tada, do the work, khalas. That's pretty much where the self-direction is coming from. Like, okay, just tell me what's to be done. Let me try. If I fail at it. Let me try and do it. But then comes the second point, which you mentioned, is the part of seeking feedback, which is a 50-50 in the generation that, like the Gen Z that we are talking about, that we are still a little hesitant and not so acceptant about the feedback, which is something we need to improve on for sure. Because, when you are doing things on your pace, you also need that mentorship or guidance or feedback. So those the gradual feedback that has to come in at every point in time, that has to surely come in. But just don't be like, do 1, 2, 3. Then that's sort of an issue. So, yeah.
I'm going to go 50-50 because I think what the world needs more of right now is that entrepreneurial spirit that Gen Z have. And they want to learn and discover and do things on their own terms. At the same time, I agree with Mandy. I think you can't just walk into a structured environment and expect that environment to change because you need more autonomy. So I think it's a gradual change that needs to happen. But what we're seeing quite a lot of the time is that Gen Z are demanding change right now, or they're even refusing to enter the room if they're not given a lot of flexibility. And it takes time to change something that's taken tens of years to build.
Definitely.
I think it's such a broad question. Even it's quite a confusing one. But fundamentally, it depends on the environment they're going into. Also, like what kind of company you're going into. Startup, it's not structured. If someone came into my environment in the last 12 months, we don't have a clear development plan as structured as you'd want it to be if you're a company that's been going for 10 years. So how could someone be autonomous in their learning? It needs to be much more collaborative. The value comes in conversations, observing. But even in an environment where it's very structured, I don't know why. I just don't agree with the fact of working in isolation. It's like the opportunity to learn off of people is what I was that opportunity was what I was afforded to at a very young age, 16, and worked through a big company like GE, and it was people that got me to where I was. It wasn't work in isolation. You can say technology is available, ChatGPT, AI, YouTube, all that stuff, but then you're limited by what your perspective of that is. And you only know what you know. Yeah. So I can't agree with the autonomous learning in that sense. But rather than agreeing with it, I just don't understand where the value lies in that.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next one.
All right.
That was a very deep one straight away, guys.
They're all deep.
I thought we were gonna
Get ready.
I thought I was going to get to just generally. I thought we'd get to know each other first before laying that out.
No, we're diving right in.
Right. Okay.
All right. Next one is quite a big one as well. So this is about motivation. So for Gen Z, in terms of employment, money isn't enough. They demand values and transparency. So very clearly defined principles from the employers that are expecting to hire them and bring them into their culture, essentially. Yeah. How do we feel about that?
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think again it's industry specific. Like I know a lot of Gen Z people that have gone into real estate that couldn't really care less. They're making a lot of money and they're doing it. They're not really bothered by the environment. If you look at the region we're in, it's not one dimensional. I mean, if you're going into the corporate world, I get it, 100%. There's the element. Again, it's just being real with the answer. Like going academically and looking at surveys and stuff, yes, it would suggest that on a populist perspective. But if you look practically in the environments you're putting them into, some of these industries are just about making as much, and they're making tremendous amounts of money. So I guarantee they're quite happy with working in isolation and just following the steps that they're being given to get that financial gain.
It's quite interesting actually though, but we see it from the other side. So some people have this attitude and they're like, okay, we're just going to go into real estate, make loads of money, and they don't thrive there because they're like, oh, it's cutthroat. Oh, I didn't meet my targets. Oh, I
didn't make any money this month because I didn't sell anything.
And then it kind of like really like makes them question everything about who they are because they've been put into this really kind of like ruthless cutthroat sales environment. And then I think then they probably come back to neutral because they're like, if you're not good at sales, then you're not going to thrive in that environment. And if you're not good at talking to people either, you're not going to thrive in that environment either. So I think you're right. It depends on the environment. But
again, the people we speak to, obviously, they are looking for more, right? I get that, and there's a lot of talk on work-life balance and what are the benefits to them personally. So 100%. I think the point I was just making is that it's again all these answers. It's literally that on both sides. You could get this,
it's so subjective.
And also, we talk about Gen Z as a generation always, and it's the same for us, millennials and boomers, but we're all individuals within a generation. We just share the years we're born in, right? So these trends won't apply to every single person. I think there are people with different motivations, but at scale, when we're looking at what motivates even our students when they're looking for jobs, yes, it's the brand, yes, it's the money, it's the opportunity to learn, but a lot of the time it's also the way they're going to be treated, and also what cause are they going to be a part of, because they won't dedicate their time, their 9 to 5, their very precious work week to just make money for a hedge fund. Unless they, like you said, if they're motivated just by money, they will go in for a few years and do that. But I think most people will think about, what does the company I'm applying to stand for in the world? And if it's a company like, let's say, a large FMCG that is polluting, or it doesn't practice fair trade or things like that, I think a lot of people will opt out of it, regardless of how good the brand is or the opportunity for salary. So
right. I mean, I am that person who's transitioned from, wanting money to wanting more of the values and the cultures in this. Sustainability sparks an interesting perspective. Like you said, this subsects within a generation as well. But like all of these values, I guess they're still way, way, way lower on the priority list, although how much of it comes down on media, on surveys and stuff like that. It's more so just the aspect or the COVID dilemma, like I call it always, which is the COVID effect. We have seen COVID, like Gen Z as a generation has had their major milestones come through those 2-3 years of the pandemic. And that shifted us and like changed us, changed our perspectives, shaped who we are, shaped what we want in many ways. And that's pretty much why also we want that work-life balance. We want that sort of an environment which is a little more chill. It's a little more collaborative. It's a little more, intuitive, entrepreneurial, someplace that we are understood, someplace that our mental health is sort of, not a taboo. It's not something that we get looked down upon, because I have seen, and surveys have been around this, I don't remember the statistics as of now, but like more than 50% of the generation, we are very vocal about our mental health. And that's something we take very preciously and very seriously. So these are just the little factors that, we want to consider aside from the money part of it, but I don't think so we are like very okay compromising with the money aspect either, because
Yeah.
we are like a big capitalist generation. Capitalism is within us.
Of course.
So I don't think so like it's a trade-off. It's
Yeah,
just a
I mean,
balance.
if you're going to get a job, money matters as well. And I think we need to normalize that as well. I think a lot
Yeah.
of companies are a bit afraid to have the salary conversation, but it makes perfect sense. If I'm going to trade my time and my skills and I'm going to add value to your business, I also want
Exactly.
to know what I'm getting out of it. We shouldn't demonize that. So I really support it. But at the same time, I think the work environment has become a huge part of the conversation, which is what we millennials didn't really talk. Did we, Martyn, what were you looking for?
I think the interesting word you said there was value. Like it's like shared value. So all the stuff you said at the beginning about the value that an individual would want, and I don't even like to speak specifically about Gen Z. It's about each of the demographics. We've had people like working with us millennials as well that have certain expectations based on their own beliefs. That means more than just the money aspect. And they were like, it was just a different, like, so we work in the energy industry. And that wasn't necessarily something that individual was overly passionate about. So she made a decision based on her beliefs, which is great. But then equally the point of other individuals wanting the remuneration aspect to beyond the impact, the industries that we're working in was equally a conversation. If you're adding value to the business should add value back to you and vice versa.
Right.
But the conversation should be centered around shared value.
Okay, great. I think this is good. The next one is Gen Z want job applications to be completed in under 15 minutes. It shouldn't take you longer than 15 minutes to do a job application. I'm for this.
Ooh,
Oh, really?
we're against.
I think it shouldn't take you longer than 20 minutes to do a job application.
I think it depends how good the
Exactly.
application is.
You should, okay, this is my thinking. I think maybe because I'm training a lot of our students who come through our door to be able to nail this on the first try, but they should know who they are. They should know what they're good at. They should know what their strengths are. They should have practiced how they communicate their value. And this is not just a student. This is us as well and you. Like you should know who you are and what you do. And then you should be able to write that down in a really authentic way in your own voice. And then it shouldn't take that long to submit your interest. Obviously, the research on who the company is, what they do, who the hiring manager is, that might take a little bit longer. But I think in terms of the application process, shouldn't be like a 2-3 hour thing. And then obviously the interview process will be longer. But in order to submit the application, I remember when I was younger and I just graduated, and I graduated in 2008, which was obviously a very painful time.
Great
and then
year.
It was bad. It was a bad time. And I remember doing applications to work in like the local council. And universities at that time. And it was like I had to print off an application. I had to fill it all in manually, right? And then I had to like send it back because it was a long time ago. And it used to take ages. And then I remember sometimes I'd just print off the application and it would just stay on my desk. And then I just wouldn't bother to like pick it back up. So the follow-up rate, even then I was just like, this is painful.
Yeah.
So I don't believe, like, I think companies should know what they're looking for and state really clearly, this is what I want. And I think people should, if you're applying for something, read what the job is, know that you're a good fit, be able to communicate your value and nail it as well. So I think it should be more of a frictionless process.
Yeah. It's true on the aspect of you know and who you are and, you know, being so damn sure like you can point it out what's the value you can add to this job, to this organization, whatever that entire aspect of positioning yourself is. But at the same point in time, it's also so competitive out there. So I feel like any application that's taken you just 10 or 15 minutes, you're surely not going ahead with that one. Because it's either going to come through someone you know from your network, or even for like industries that have particularly experienced around the startup space, around the VC space, the investment ecosystem in general. They're always looking for like people who can distinguish themselves. So you are either like creating a video, you're doing like a video application, you're either doing like a proper investment memo for them. And that's something that you can definitely not complete in a very, very short period of time. So definitely going that extra mile, putting that extra effort, you know, just get noticed. And that's something that I feel is happening so evidently out here. It's either through your LinkedIn, your personal branding, whatever. So it's obviously a cumulated effort, but 10-15 minutes, that's definitely, at least in my experience, that's something actually doesn't matter, right? Like the time of it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but too short applications are a red flag.
Do you not think about friction is good in that process though?
That's a good question. I think to your point, I get what you're saying. But I think if you're looking at it at the transaction of like submitting something, then I think frictionless. But I think obviously the preparation, that's going to take longer and you should be spending time on that. So,
but what's interesting is if you look at it from both perspectives, for an individual, what I'd say is if there's friction, then it's going to put a lot of people off going, which means the amount of applications not flooded amongst people that's just hitting easy apply on LinkedIn. And from my perspective as an employer, I can get to people that have actually taken the time, that actually have read the job post, they've looked at it and said, that's something I want to invest my time in. It looks like the right thing for me, because there's steps to be taken. And if you want it enough, then you would invest the time in it. I'm not saying make it incredibly arduous, but just a couple of things that stimulate thought that would deter people from just going. I mean, the type of roles we had and we're trying to change our approach to this, business analysts, data engineers, they're like, all right, dude, I can do that. And it's just like plugged in. And even we introduced screening questions. The amount of people that would just try and bypass that. But it was a great thing for us to see, right, who's worth reading. Because if they put a question and they just put like ... in the answers, it's like, well, that's not worth our time, right? But it streamlines our review because we're not outsourcing recruitment, we're doing it ourselves. But yeah, this again, you don't want to make it too difficult, but equally, if it's just, I think the LinkedIn thing where I've seen where it's just easy apply, it's just like,
no, easy apply is the worst. I think that's the other extreme, isn't it? Because people aren't even thinking, they're
That's
just
a
kind of
sure red
default
flag.
doing it.
Spamming.
Yeah. And then I think also you've got AI now, so you're running your CV in AI, and then I think on the other end as well, the ATS is like doing AI, so there's no one in the middle actually looking at what's going on.
So we put video screenings. So because the AI screenings are, it's going based on just, you could tailor your CV to suit that to typically what you could do with a recruiter, I suppose. But we put video screening on to ask questions, which again stimulated thought. And actually you start to get more context of the individual as opposed to just generic answers. And we had to learn that because the first ones we put up were all generic answers, but it gives you an idea of the individual, and that's limiting the answers to like 30 seconds or a minute. It's not saying they need to be long-winded answers, but again, you get an idea of someone's personality also. Like, do they want to engage in something like that?
Yes, it was worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's see about the next one. Gen Z.
Who's winning, by the way?
Oh no,
No one's keeping track. No score. I forgot to keep in
No.
So competitive. All right.
That's the millennial in me.
All right. So here we go. So Gen Z is both the most comfortable with AI, but also most at risk from it. Since ChatGPT came by and a lot of the entry-level work has become more easily automated, graduate roles have been disappearing. About 35% of them have shrunk so far. So large firms are reducing their graduate intakes. So just in this phase one of AI rollout, we're already seeing a big impact on entry-level talent, which right now happens to be mostly Gen Z. So how do we feel about that?
It's like, I can roll this around.
Yeah. Okay. So it's 50-50.
It's 50-50.
Why is it 50-50?
It's good in a way because it pushes us out of that comfort zone of, that entire cycle of you study, you graduate, you get a job, you grow from there, and, you just complete that entire cycle to full circle. It's not good because obviously it just makes things so much, so bad for us that it becomes really weird coping up with that entire aspect of, okay, what do we do next with our life? Because we were always given a direction of, because Gen Z is a generation that is also between, we are digital natives, we grew up with social media, technology, internet, but we were also very, very far away from AI. Like AI came when we were in our 20s, late 20s, early 20s, somewhere between that age roughly. So it's also something that has come to us as a shocker. A lot of us are embracing it. A lot of us are being severely affected by it. But at the same point in time, it just pushes us out of our way to, not be in the comfort zone and actually get and learn how to work with AI. Because yes, entry-level jobs are going away, but which ones? The ones that were more repetitive, the ones that were more administrative, the ones that were, It was like you're just following a simple standard process because we have AI and we have like great AI. I've seen so many agentic AIs come through in the last couple of days with the pitch sessions going on, and it's like super crazy, but they're still limited. They're
Yeah.
still limited. AI still has its own limitations, and it's still like 80% of it is still very process driven. So it's just going to follow the SOP 1, 2, 3 to 4. It won't be able to use its brain. So basically, we need to train ourselves for the roles that will involve more of decision making, that will involve more of analysis. AI is the co-pilot we have to work with, and rather not, be scared of it. So as long as we can shift the gear and go to that aspect of this, which we were never taught before. So right now we are still adjusting to it and kind of in the transition phase. So if we push ourselves out of this and kind of get there, that's when, this entire dilemma will sort of, it'll at least get more rationalized, it'll get more calmed down, settled down, and much better than how it is right now. Right now, it's an upheaval because a lot of us don't know what's to be done.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, AI, but it's actually like you just need to calm down and see what is it replacing, what is it not.
And where's the opportunity for you?
Exactly. Find the white space and kill it there. So yeah.
And for you, Martyn, do you think if those entry-level roles, analyst roles, they get removed and they're replaced by AI, then what's the jump from I've just graduated to, okay, I need someone to come in and be able to
It's
deliver
interesting.
value?
So I think the space we work in, obviously we're receptive to AI, but for the companies we speak to, it's such a broad space. Like we kind of try and ban the term AI itself and get much more focus on the subset, like what practically are you doing and what tangible value does that specific technology add to the person or the process and ultimately the business? What's the measurable criteria that you get from it? I didn't know that statistic on jobs that are getting in. That's a recalibration, which I think is interesting. For us, we took out our junior analyst role. There's no junior job in our business, but what we have done is for anyone coming into the company, we don't, the ban's the wrong word, but we restrict the use of tools like ChatGPT at the beginning, because what it's doing is, what we found was individuals were using it to accelerate finishing a job rather than accelerating their comprehension and value to the person, to the process, to the company. And that's when I think the question was, which are they the most at risk? No is the answer, to be honest, because I'd say they're more receptive to learn. There's more exposure to them in terms of even electives with yourselves. I think I did a big Think AI elective when I was going through the MBA. It was one of the first early ones. I think it was only the few years before I think it sort of started. Whereas now it's much more structured and there's so much evolution of thought and everyone's getting much more aware of it. But for the generations in the workplace, they're adopting it based on their own understanding, and it comes so they don't really understand what it's doing because they've skipped the comprehension stage. They've just gone straight to utilization, and it comes back to it. So, and similarly, when I was starting my career at 16 and I was getting trained on different things, and then when I actually started planning, I wasn't allowed to use. So it's Primavera we used to use for project planning at Vetco, which later was GE. And there's a gentleman called Niels Goldberg that taught me planning, and he took me into an office and he gave me a pack of sticky pads and a sheet of paper with like start and end dates of activities and durations. And what I had to do was manually stick them on the wall to figure out what the quickest time to deliver this project was. And it was quite complex. And then the significance was, if I got it wrong, I had to take it all down again. But what it taught me was the theory behind the technology. So it meant when I got the tool, I was able to leverage it effectively. And I think that kind of same principle is what's needed at the minute for people going into the workplace to then be able to leverage stuff like that. But to come back to the question, I think all it does is it introduces or gives the opportunity that people coming into the workplace now is they're going into roles which drive value. There is no junior role anymore. I think it's if you don't skip the step of comprehending what it is you're trying to do. What does value look like? Leverage the technology to accelerate your learning and your comprehension. You go from a junior, so you might not have the junior analyst route anymore, but you're going into, I'm using analyst, it's so generic, but like any role. But you can accelerate your experience, you can accelerate your capability, your comprehension to get into a job where you're actually further on than you would have been if you started in a traditional fashion. So it's your perspective on it, I suppose.
Absolutely.
And when you hire, how do you test for that comprehension? Is this something that you think the person needs to come with already at that level?
You're not going to, again, in what we do, I think we're approaching, that's why I was joking at the start when you called us consultants, we're much more of a service provider. And I've got Danushka with me here today. It's actually a new ops manager. She's going through the process herself, and I think she'll attest to it. We go through it very meticulously. It's really, rather than accelerating to the deliverable, it's understand why are we doing the things we do. Like, why does that information that we're capturing matter? But more importantly, what are you going to do with it next? And we don't skip that step in any role now, because if you don't get that right, then you're compromised. Well, what's compromised is how people communicate within the business as well. And ultimately that goes into what we deliver for our customers. But it's something we've had to really focus on, because we took for granted that people would just pick it up. But actually, what I feel fortunate of it being difficult is that I know that we're doing it differently. If it was streamlined, it was really easy, then I've kind of said, oh, we're not doing anything really different. But we're still figuring it out, to be honest. We still got to, again, growth mindset. Can we do it better than we were doing it last time? I think every person that comes in, we're doing it slightly better.
That was the last of our likes and dislikes, but we'll move on to...
There's mine now.
Thank God.
Yeah, not anymore. Well, actually, maybe you can just use it as a visual representation of how you feel about our question. Fire. So Gen Z have been called the unsubscribe generation. So if a workplace feels toxic or rigid, then they'll just leave. Do you think that's courage, or does it create avoidant habits? And what are your thoughts on that? Because as a millennial, I remember being drilled into me, you don't leave a job until you found another one.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed, especially in our roles, that I'll get phone calls and emails being like, so I left that role last week and now I'm back on the market. And I'm like, well, why? And then I'm like, why did you quit if you didn't have something else? And they're like, oh no, I wasn't feeling it. And the manager was making me work like 7 days a week until 9 p.m. And then I was like, okay, I understand why you quit, but also you've got nothing else lined up. And then they're in a panic mode. So for me, I can't get my brain around that they would just quit without having something else in the pipeline. Because I think that's just a difference in mindset as well. So yeah, how do...
I wouldn't term it as courage, bravery, or specifically use synonymous terms like that. It's just something that was due for a long time, I feel. Like, you don't have to be stuck in a role just because you have to. I've done this thing where I've left jobs without anything like on my plate. Obviously, it's not an easy phase then to be in. You take that decision and then you're like, oh, maybe I should have like stretched it off a week more or 2 weeks more. Obviously, that regret's going to come at some point in time. But it's just the fact that, if you're not thriving, if you're not growing in a place, if you know that there's a dead end coming through, or that learning curve is sort of getting stagnant, it's not matching where you want to be, it's not the right place to be. Because as a generation, I also feel we are very sorted in the way. Again, it's a very 50-50 bucket there. Like, a lot of people I know, they are just lost. They don't know what they want to do in life. They don't know what's happening around. They're just going with the flow and, living the social media life. But
the influencer life.
The influencer life, yeah. Which isn't bad as well. Like, UGC has a concept that's changed. That's like one of the core skills I feel we have, which is content.
Yeah,
which previous generations did.
And personal branding as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's like one of the core skills we have. But again, if used right. Having said that, the point where I was getting to is...
kind of like it builds resilience because you have the courage to quit and then you have to deal with that situation. But then it kind of doesn't build resilience because you're not willing to stay in an environment that's going to test you.
Exactly. Resilience is something we definitely need to work on because everything's not going to come and be per our whims and fancies. So that's definitely one thing I've realized personally and also widely, that as a generation, we collectively need to build that thing, the culture of feedback, the perspective of, being more physically communicating and rather than, just digital and on text and stuff like that. But just that fact of being in a job for the sake of being, that's not something, because 50% of us, like I was talking about, we really know where we want to be. We have mapped out that trajectory and ahead. We have worked really hard for it because we have sorted that life. We're also a generation wherein we are that side hustle generation, like 6 out of 10 we would be doing a side hustle, not because we have to, but because we want to develop that skill or because it's something that we love doing. So if the previous job, if the 9 to 5 is like literally draining us out, how can we focus our energy into the different buckets that we want to? So
and
just
that's so
that
funny because
idea.
I remember when I was a recruiter, and this is like, 6-7 years ago now, and that 10 years before then, if we were looking at CVs, hiring managers used to say to me, they're doing something else on the side. That means they can't commit to us. And it would be almost like a deterrent. But I think now that's a different perspective.
It's celebrated.
Yeah, it's celebrated.
It's a hustle culture.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I celebrate it too much, to be honest. Again, it's all depending where you are as a business. I think if you're in a much more structured environment, and it is, but I think if it was for where we are right now, we're punching above our weight, and it's an intense environment we work in. Like realistically, it's you commend the entrepreneurial spirit for sure. But for us right now, it's just acknowledge the learning curve.
You need that commitment.
And it's exhausting. Yeah. So when you talk about work-life balance and stuff, it's just knowing that, this will be an intense process. It's like a fire hydrant of learning and exposure you're going to get. If you're going then away at night and trying to manage that also, that's your recovery or that's your leveling up time. To your question, I think it's interesting because the key difference I think today is that, and you're talking right back to the beginning when you were saying about the access to applying for jobs, and if you are a talented person, then it's easier than ever to get another opportunity. So, and especially if you have different home circumstances. Like for me, I didn't have the luxury of saying, I'm just going to sit this out for the next month. Something else will come up. But also, I didn't have the access. I mean, my first job was a newspaper cutout, that I had to then walk to hand in my application. It's God, I didn't realize how old I am.
Handwritten.
that was a realization there. But it's just a different time. You could be literally on LinkedIn and apply for 50 jobs and do the interviews in the evenings or the weekends or whatever. And you don't need to be in a certain place. Globalization is real. You could work on a job to get out of one situation to a job you don't necessarily want to be doing whilst you're looking for another job, but you just didn't like that environment. Yeah. So the options you have, again, subject to being a talented person, you can hold yourself well in the interview place, but what I'd always caution on is that it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to find an environment which is there's always going to be difficulty.
Yeah.
There's always going to be challenges, and actually you learn more about yourself and you develop skills in the hardest times than you will when everything's going well.
Absolutely.
But then that comes back to the first question, talk about the value of being around good people. So you could be under pressure, you could be in intense environments, but if you believe in the people that you're working with as your teammates, but also the hiring managers or your line managers, whatever you believe in them, then you stick it out for that. And then the sense of achievement you get at the other side of it is such an incentive. And even if after that you say, right, that wasn't right for me, I don't want to do that again, but look at where I am today versus taking the easy way out. So it's just there's a lot of things to consider.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Martyn. And I think, just to make a quick twist there, I think one of the reasons why employers are now turning towards entrepreneurial hires, and in the same articles we're looking at this change of the understanding of what is an employee, and right now people are looking more at someone who is an entrepreneur in residence. And the idea there is a lot of companies want to hire people who have initiative, and entrepreneurs show initiative and resilience and grit. So exactly what you're saying. Someone who has had a couple of side hustles, someone who's teaching themselves how to use different AI systems, is someone who's a lot more likely to have that grit and that undeterred persistence when they join your company, and it gets really tough because they have to solve something really complex for you. But if they've done it before, they have the skill and the mental strength to go through that. And when I speak to employers, they say, we want someone entrepreneurial, and it's a good sign if they've had a couple of hustles because they failed, because they found a way to get out of it, because they initiate things, they self-think, they self-do. And in this era, that is a unique skill that is, I think, if you ask me, the most valued by employers today. So that's why I think.
I can already think of someone specifically in their business that has that. And I think that'll definitely be something that they pursue in the future. But again, it's the timing of it. It's like, right, again, it's the environment you're putting yourself into, the company you're working at, understanding where they are, and actually just not putting too much pressure on yourself. Like, just because you're not doing it right now, it doesn't mean you can't go on to do it. And then you find an environment which is a bit more structured, like day to day, which then complements that. But it's just, I think that there's a lot of pressure on people that feel like they have to have something.
Yeah.
Because social media is so prominent. Everyone's a crypto investor. Everyone's trading. Everyone can do property development. And you're like, just relax. Like, actually focus on yourself, your development, and actually learning. And again, it's all depending on where Gen Z is very broad. So like, like there are people that have been in the working careers for a while, so they're ready. But like people that are still going into their early jobs or the early phase of career, like just focus on developing yourself.
Yeah, there's a concept of like mastery. Like, how do you know that you've reached the best at doing what you need to do before you move on to the next thing? I think it's such a underrated thing, but I know for me, like in my own career, when I think back and when I started, because I graduated in 2008, and then just a bit about my story, and then I just took any job, right? Because it's like peak recession. And then I was working as a billing analyst of all these things in like the middle of an industrial park, and like I was on spreadsheets all day and I hated it. And I was like, okay, I need to do something people related. I'm like energized by people. And then I ended up like working in recruitment. And a bit like you, like they just chucked me onto the phones and they were like, right, this is the script, figure it out. We did some role plays, off you go. I was like, okay. And then obviously you build that skill of like talking to people, connecting with people. And it took me ages before I believed that I was really good at it. Yeah. It took me maybe 3-4 years where I was like, okay, I'm nailing this now. I know how to build rapport with someone. It wasn't after like 6 months and I'd like, placed a few people, made some commission where I was like, okay, this is it. I'm like a pro. And the person that was like kind of mentoring me had been doing the job for like 10 years. And then I saw how good he was. And I was like, okay, this is like the goal of like where I need to reach. But I only felt like, okay, I'm really good at my job. It took me like 4 to 5 years before I was like, yeah, I really believe in it. Right. And that's where I think that element is missing of like just practicing and refining your craft.
Do you know what's interesting though? Is like, even though when you feel like you have, it doesn't necessarily, so I worked in a very structured environment, but, and I had unbelievable people around me, like they'd forgotten more about what they do than I would have ever known. People that, and this is I think a key challenge for the generations now, is that there's people in that company being there for 20, 30 years. That doesn't happen. I thought I was miles better than what I was. But what I realized was I had great people, great processes, and it was just the company itself was just, very established.
Set you up for success.
And when I came here, I was isolated. I was on my own. I didn't know the region, didn't know people. And I realized that I was nowhere near as good as I thought I was. So just because you feel like you've mastered it, it doesn't necessarily mean you have. So
that's really, really good. And I also feel like I think for Gen Zs, I think advice I would give is, yes, the role looks exciting. Yes, the pay is excellent. I think the team is such a critical part. For me, the next job I go into, I've been really lucky for the last 2 companies to have like really good teams that I've worked with. Yeah. So now that's like a very, very top priority of mine. 100%. Team, I think, is 100% in my top 2 of priorities. And then also like culture and values, because you need to want to go to work every day, because even if the job is boring, you'll still go and you'll still enjoy yourself and you'll still practice and learn and like figure out how to be the best you can be. I think if you don't even place any emphasis or value on that, I think you are missing a trick.
Yeah. Sure. And I'll add one final thing, that even a job you absolutely love and adore will be boring some days. And that's okay. And I want to normalize that, because there's no job that will be exciting and will keep you on your toes every second of every day for years. And that's all right. You don't want that. You want peak periods and you want calm periods and you want to recalibrate. So just for Gen Zs, you guys.
Yeah, but I guess that's just the part of it of, we want to try it all before we settle down. Sure. That's just an aspect where that frequent getting out of a job in 2 months, or frequent of, us rejecting something just because something didn't click for us, an aspect was not working out, comes from, is that I want to try 1, 2, and 3 before I say, okay, this is where I want to be. Yeah. For me personally, I actually wanted to do management consulting, not to like be against.
Not to rub it in, but.
Not to rub it in, but I really wanted to do like the MBBs. And then I'm like, nah, the culture is not fitting in for me, or the hustle is not something that I can survive in for a longer period of time. Then I wanted to do IB, and I'm like, oh, this is just like
Investment
the brother
banking.
of investment banking. And then I'm like, all of these are jobs that I'm skilled at. I can definitely do it, and a lot of people within that I know can do it as well. But a lot of my friends are thriving in it, and I realized after getting in that okay, I won't be able to thrive in it because of a certain aspect of because of a couple of things that were just not fitting into my lifestyle, or the things that I now prioritize more, which can be my family, which can be stuff, which can be spirituality, anything. Because me as a person, I'm still evolving, just like my peers within the generation. So that's also why our priorities are changing, because we are evolving. We prioritize a lot of not so important things early on in our life, because all of this was glamorous and new early on. Now we are getting more humbled down. Now we are understanding what matters and where's the substance at. And that's also why that entire shift is happening from glorification to more of like a robust material, something that's simple but gives value out of it. So that's just that part of, trying everything and then seeing, okay, now I know that, yes, I want to be in the startup space, I want to VC space, because this is something I know I'm good at, but this is also something that gives me the life, that's not just money, not just that glorified badge of being an investor, but also on a couple of other aspects. And now I'm settled. Now I know that, okay, this is the path I want to go down in the future. So just if like a lot of people can also generally, the previous generations, not to be very blunt about it, but just take this not as not being that committed, and rather give us that space to try it out and, be, okay, this is not working out for you. Maybe just try something else. Just be positive about it, and,
That's good advice.
Just reduce the stigma.
61% of L&D think Gen Z need more support with soft skills, but Gen Z place more focus on hard skills, within the sort of data and AI revolution that we're in right now. So to both of you, Martyn, what are you seeing in your hires? And what do you hire for, and what do you feel still needs to be trained when it comes to the soft side of the skill set?
So as to what we hire for, it's mindset. Because we'll always in the hiring process, we'll identify foundational talent and intelligence. Then it's all about mindsets. First principles, understanding the root cause of everything, and through that you can really understand someone's desire and motivation to solve problems. So mindset for sure.
100%. And what about you, Krupa?
Adding on to that, I guess the ability to read a room. That's one of the crucial skills I feel we should develop, because we have not been exposed to physical environments that often. That's something we need to know. And the second is, I guess, seeking feedback. These two are the major softer aspects, or, the nuances on that front. Because AI will take off the hard skills. AI will produce AI. It won't be that tough.
And I think with the feedback piece, I think the way to get better with feedback is to ask for it. And I think if you ask for it and you are conscientious about it and you don't take offense, because it's a gift and you're going to learn from it, and it may not feel nice at the moment, just sit with it. And the more you do it, the easier it will become to digest.
Our effective feedback model is from HALT. So shout out Dr. Amanda. That's the,
She's going to love that.
That's the one that we literally took it. That was one of the key things I took away from. I looked at myself and what I was doing when I worked for someone else and how I was giving feedback, and it wasn't nice, and I try and share that with people that come through our business. But if you do it with the intent of someone getting better, then equally, as long as you preface it with context and get the right timing. But that's straight out of HALT. There you go.
And then we saw a video from Esther Perel, and she basically was saying, when it came to the skills question, she basically was like, Gen Z need to talk to strangers to build up this muscle. And if you do that, because she was
on the
like,
phone,
everybody's too busy looking down at their phone. She was like, talk to strangers, look around, absorb your environment, ask questions, and this is going to build like the resilience. It's going to build a lot of skills that you're building without even realizing.
Exactly.
And I saw this anecdote before just quickly, and it was like they were talking about communication styles between like millennials and Gen Z and maybe the generation above us as well. And they were saying, where did we build these skills from? And someone was saying, because when we were younger, especially in the UK, I think you can relate to this story, is like when we would go and have free time in summer holidays, we'd have to either call our friends on the phone and then we'd have to speak to their parents first, or we would have to go and knock on their doors and ask our friends to play.
All
and
those
then,
awkward
You coming out?
conversations.
yes, and then the parents would be like, oh no, I have to talk to my mum.
Then
And
there's
the mum would-
negotiation.
You'd have to be like, hi, Mrs. Jones, is
you really
James
wanna
allowed
go
to play?
That's
And
very
then-
formal.
yeah.
Mrs. Jones, you do that. It's like,
That just came to my head.
That never
and
happened.
then we'd have to ask them how they are. We'd have to butter them up a little bit, like have a smile on our face. We'd have to like really be charismatic to ensure that like James can come out to play.
Yeah.
Otherwise, forget about it. He's not allowed. So it's like one of these things, like you just little softer things like
Right.
this is how you build
I worked
it.
in a fish and chip shop.
Oh yeah, perfect.
And it was like, there's nothing, talk about conflict resolution. There's no one that's more difficult to deal with a Scottish person that feels like someone's cut in front of the queue in dinner time. So
Yeah.
that face-to-face interaction.
You definitely built your resilience.
At 16, that's
That
great.
was 15. That was-
15. Oh,
I don't think it was legal.
as we wrap up, I want to appeal to your creative skills. So, if history books gave Gen Z and millennials, straight up millennial, one sentence that defines your generation, what would it say?
The most sorted yet confused generation that the world has ever seen.
Sorted?
Yet confused.
Sorted yet confused.
I like that.
I like it.
I think ours is, God, this is, I think resilience is one. I think there's been a lot of change, like in ours. Like we were the first for like, you know, like, I think going back to, I was like first person, like when technology really started to shift.
Yeah.
And like we had to adapt as it's getting created.
Yeah.
And even like obviously you can say Gen Z with AI and stuff, but there's so much support around being able to understand that. But the way that businesses worked and the way it all changed in terms of then transitioning to working remotely, like where I'm from, Aberdeen, is a completely different place now because you used to have to all be there to work there. Everyone's around the world. Globalization is real. Like all these businesses are operating globally. You've had to go, and then you've got all the economic stuff and everything that's gone on. Like I think resilience is one I'd use for millennials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Also, millennials are like the most hanging generation.
Is that a cool word? Is that a Gen Z word for like
Fun.
fun? Not joking.
I just feel like you guys were left hanging up and
hanging.
I
dry.
thought you meant to hang out. I was like, yeah, that's fun. I was like, yeah, that's me.
That was the boomer
No
in us, by the way.
I take it back.
Yeah. We were
No, like
left
the most
to figure it out.
because you guys have seen it all.
Yeah.
Like the .com revolution, the financial crisis.
Oh, God.
Even the way you said that
COVID.
made me feel old. Like, it's like,
I just had to
I literally,
It's
like, do you know what this is? Just think about fire back.
Right. We're old, but we've seen it all. So
Yeah.
that gives us a little bit of an advantage.
Well, thank you guys
Thank you.
so much. I think there's some good pieces of advice in there, I think, for both sides of the party. So I think everyone can tune in and just kind of figure out how that's going to apply to them in the workplace and socially as well. So if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, follow and subscribe on YouTube and Instagram. And that's where you're going to find all the new episodes that we've got lined up and everything like that. So thank you and see you soon.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for tuning into the For Those Made to Do podcast. We are your hosts, Mandy Sahota
And Bianca Pavel. This podcast is all about the doers who have achieved career success in the UAE and the stories that go with it.